Do you need to get a mix and all that shit? All I can say is that my life is pretty plain. I like watching the puddles gather rain. Can you hear me?
Welcome to Rock Docs, a podcast about music documentaries brought to you by your friends and mine at Treble Media, treblezine.com. In these troubled times for online music writing, and I don't actually know when this podcast is going to come out. We record ahead of time, but I'm just going to assume whenever you hear this, it's troubled times for online music writing.
Would be rad if it's fixed by then, and then
if it's fixed by then,
we'll edit this out.
Skip ahead. But assuming it is questionable times for online music writing, Treblezine is there for you. They are a fully independent music journalist source. They publish a lot of great stuff. They've been around for many, many years. They pay their writers. They're just lovely people. Mm-hmm. So if you're like, why isn't anybody writing good stuff about music anymore, and why can't I find it, and why are all these websites closing? Well, no, Treblezine is there for you, so go check it out. And that's who we're brought to you by. And I'm here. I'm Dave Lizerbram. I'm here with my co-host
Andrew Keatts,
and we are joined by our returning champion today. You may remember him from our critically acclaimed Guar episode.
That's the highest rated on Apple Podcasts, right?
That's
iTunes.
That's an inner circle episode for sure.
Okay. It's tearing up Metacritic. Ryan Bradford, say hi, Ryan.
Hello. Very happy to be back with you, fellas. Very stoked. That sounded so lame. I'm very happy. Thank you for having me. No, this is very exciting. Thanks for having me.
Ryan's coming off a little dental work earlier this afternoon, so we'll forgive the occasional lapse of enthusiasm or coherence. All right, so as you know, because we're nice, we let our guests usually pick the film to discuss, and you, Ryan, picked All I Can Say, a 2019 documentary film about Blind Melon singer Shannon Hoon. And it was directed. Well, Shannon Hoon's credited as a director because the entire film is made of footage that he shot on his camcorder. But there's 3 co-directors who are credited: Danny Clinch, Taryn Gould, and Colleen Hennessy. And it's about the late Shannon Hoon. And so I guess let's just go around the horn with Blind Melon. What prior to seeing the film or whatever, Ryan, what was your relationship with Blind Melon?
Okay, so Blind Melon was actually my first favorite band. No Rain, first favorite song. I think I was 2nd, 3rd grade when I first heard it, and I got the CD for Christmas when I was in 3rd grade. That was my first CD, and so I guess you could call me a melon head. So yeah, just a long history. I got their second album, Soup, right when it came out. It confused me at that age, but now I believe that it's probably the most underrated album of the 90s.
Great take.
Yes,
take.
I will go to bat for Soup any day. And me and my brothers, continued with that Blind Melon love, and there was that posthumous album, Nico, that was the first enhanced CD I ever had. Like, you put it in your computer and you could see some music videos, some computer content, if you will. So yeah.
A man never forgets his first enhanced CD.
when you turn the CD around and you saw that little icon, like the real ones know what I'm talking about. They can picture that. That was an exciting day.
Yeah. So I had a similar relationship with Blind Melon to Ryan. They were an early favorite band of mine. Started with No Rain, certainly. I loved Blind Melon when I was in elementary school. I then had a second love affair with Blind Melon when I was like my freshman year of college. I was obviously smoking a lot of pot, and I started listening to Blind Melon all the time. Probably the band I listened to the most in that year and a half or so. I don't think I was alone in that. There were a lot of people my age in like 2002, 2003 who were going through a Blind Melon renaissance. I remember many times getting into a late 90s Civic to smoke a blunt and having some bro rocking out to tones of home. So yeah, I still love Blind Melon. I love Blind Melon to this day. I think they're a great band. I think it's a bit of a shame that they are so associated with No Rain specifically. Although I'll be honest, I still like No Rain. Good song. Don't have any
Great
problem
song.
with it.
Great song.
So I have no dissenting views on Blind Melon. They are a fantastic band. Shannon Hoon is a fantastic singer. This was a fantastic film.
It's all right. Good talk. Good good podcast, everybody.
All right.
We
We're
got
done.
it.
We're done.
All right. Well,
Go ahead, David. Go ahead.
It's not exactly what you think, but it's mostly what you think.
All right.
Well, I'm a little bit older than you guys. When No Rain dropped and the world was turned on to Blind Melon, I was, I think, about 17, which is like just the right age to hate stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Duh. Yeah.
It is peak hating stuff age.
Peak.
Peak
Yeah. Really. And so I that song and video did not connect for me at all. I saw it as a as product, meaning you know, oh, I get it. This person's an outsider, but yet she's being accepted by this other community of outsiders. Like the whole thing just seemed so phony to me at the time as a 17-year-old. And I wouldn't say I got off the Blind Melon train. I was never on it. So I don't know that I've ever heard another Blind Melon song in my life.
Wow.
Not and
Yeah.
like I don't think anybody I knew owned the CD. Like, and I mean I heard that song every 30 seconds on the radio, but I don't know that any of their other songs. I mean, I'm sure 91X played another Blind Melon song at some point. You know what I mean? Like but I don't remember it. And they just were not part of my world. Like they, I lived in a Blind Melon free world for whatever reason. So, when he died, I was like, that's a bummer. That's a guy who died. But
Yeah,
that was, I mean, I like the Don't Cry video, so I knew that whole thing. That was cool. And yeah, that was my. And until you suggested this film, I probably had not spent 2 seconds thinking about them ever since.
Really?
Ever since that video fell off of heavy rotation.
Yeah, this is super interesting because this movie, this Rock Docs, this all I can say. This is made for melon heads, I feel like, and so I'm very curious to hear your take because I feel like if you don't know the band, this was a very frustrating viewing experience. But we can get into that. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see.
Oh, so, let me ask you one other thing, David. So, you did not like No Rain. You basically wrote the band off, and it wasn't like it was a hard thing to do because you didn't know anybody else who was listening to them. In what what other bands would you have called Blind Melon's contemporaries when you were 17, 18 years old? What if somebody was like, I like Blind Melon, what would you have presumed they also liked?
I'm gonna go with Stone Temple Pilots.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I'm getting the timing there exactly right, but another band I never enjoyed listening to 1 second of, and was, no matter how uncool I was, which was set that dial to the maximum, I was still too cool for Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah.
And I mean, I like Pearl Jam, and so whatever. It wasn't like I didn't like anything, but that seemed contemporary for me. I mean, there's other things that strike me as being about the same time that I did like that were in the buzz bin, the Breeders and whatever. But yeah, and then also like kind of like it was mentioned in the film, but oh my god, what's the Two Princes band?
Spin
Doctors. Yeah. I mean, that was what was way earlier, but still seemed of the same lineage. Or what's the Hey Jealousy? Gin Blossoms. The Gin Blossoms were roughly contemporary with Blind Melon. Also a thing. I was just like, this is the sucky version of something that could be good.
Huh,
and again,
interesting to me.
I'm just speaking from the man I was 30 years ago, or a young person I was 30 years ago. So there you go. Does that answer your question?
It does. It does. I mean, I always thought they were a little bit odd.
Blues Traveler?
Yeah, I mean,
they suck.
I
I'm just gonna.
Hey,
I
keep
always
Blues
sad that
Traveler out of your mouth, sir. Blues Traveler,
Uh,
great band.
I do think that they were sort of a little bit weird to categorize because they're certainly in the time period of like post Nevermind alternative stuff. But they didn't really sound grungy, I don't think. Although there are some songs that certainly did. They definitely had like a bit of a sort of embrace from the neo jam band crowd with Spin Doctors and Blues Traveler, I think, and
they
sort
had a
of
Horde tour vibe about them.
there was a bit of a Horde tour vibe about them, although they were not running around in circles, running with those bands at all. They were running with Soundgarden, and stuff like that. So I do think they were always a little bit between worlds. So I was interested in how you thought of them as somebody who didn't give them much thought at all.
Well, the other thing is, like, if you're just gonna, I may as well just air out my takes right now. Just get
Yeah.
it all out up front, and we can,
Yeah.
kick it around or whatever. But this is the kind of observation that I've shared in the past. I think on the hype episode about grunge,
Mm-hmm.
maybe other times, but in this time period of the early '90s, we were presented with all these quote unquote alternative bands, many of which I loved and many of which I didn't care for or whatever. But despite all the posturing that these were outsiders and so forth, like, it just seemed to me that every single one of these bands was fronted by like a square-jawed male model type.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I like, whether it's Kurt Cobain, Eddie Vedder, Chris Cornell, Scott Weiland, and Shannon Hoon, like, give all those guys a haircut and that's the water polo team. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, that's, you know what I mean? That's the kind of like, it's like, well, if you grow your hair out, then you get a pass or something. I don't know. And I think that was kind of alienating at the time. I mean, even like Beck was sort of a little bit of that. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't quite as much of a himbo as some of these guys, but like, as somebody who just was not engaging with Blind Melon and then like saw them on the cover of Rolling Stone, he looked like a himbo,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying he was or what. I'm just saying like that whole presentation like became a little much for me by the time they came into my consciousness.
Yeah.
So, I mean, can't knock the guy for
Maybe
being beautiful.
maybe like Billy Corgan, the one exception to that rule, right? Like not.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's many
is-
bands that were exceptions.
Yeah. Well, I
that
mean
were not fronted by men or not.
that were wrapped into that.
Right.
thing.
Sure. Exactly.
I do think if I were to look back, I think they sort of fit in more neatly with sort of like a collective soul.
Oh yeah.
No,
Rough.
but that's like
Yeah.
on the bad side, and then but on the good side, more like Soul Asylum.
Yeah, sure.
Of the two
I
souls.
mean, they did.
I was thinking
Yeah, they
about both
definitely
souls.
had.
Yeah.
Oh,
Soul
The
Asylum.
soul,
Yeah.
the Soul Bros. They were,
Yeah.
when they toured together. That's what the tour is called, right? The Soul Bro tour.
And
right.
Smashing Pumpkins, honestly.
I mean, a lot of the songs on the first album, if you move away from No Rain, it's like there is kind of. I do feel like they fit in more with the. I don't know, maybe Mother Love Bone.
Yeah.
I say that without. But there is definitely kind of a bluesy metal, like soulful vibe to that.
Yeah.
Which even like even Pearl Jam 10 kind of like dabbles in that. So there is kind of this crossover that's not like all like it doesn't really fit in with grunge, but it was definitely kind of a contemporary of like the big music at the time.
Yeah.
Well, that
The
may be so. But I
alternative
haven't
music
heard it,
of the grunge era that is not grunge, strictly speaking.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's probably also some like Guns N' Roses influence in
Yeah.
there too. Them being buddies with Axl.
Yes.
All
right.
Yeah. Who gets a brief cameo? I think that's Axl's first appearance in the Rock Doc canon, if I'm not mistaken.
We have a lot of repeat appearances in here, but Axl, that's his first, I believe.
All right, so let's talk about this film. So yeah, as I said, this was all. So I guess Shannon Hoon from 1990, when he was just an aspiring, musician type guy, right up till the day of his death in 1995, sort of seemed to obsessively film himself and the world around him with like a VHS camera that he just had with him all the time. And a lot of times there was like a fisheye thing that he was using. and that went on for years. So he's really committed to that aesthetic. And this film was assembled like whatever 20 some years later, just from footage of that. There's no like this is not a thing where like Flea pops in as a talking head or something late after the fact. There's no talking heads after the fact. There's no like it's all it's really just all the footage that's assembled from his video camera, and he sure shot a lot of footage. So like there was a whole lot of stuff to pick from, and so that makes it a little different. I mean, I didn't know anything about this movie when I went into it.
Yeah.
So when you guys well, first of all, when did you first see the movie? Because it's been out for a while.
I
think
never got
go
around to
ahead.
I never got around to watching it, but I remember it came out at the beginning of the pandemic, and I was stoked to see it. I read about it at the time, and one thing led to another. I didn't watch it until Ryan proposed it.
Really? Oh, yeah. No, I saw it when it came out. I think I rented it like during those dark days of the pandemic, and I remember being kind of bewildered by it. I appreciated it. I don't really know if I enjoyed it because I like as a Melon head, I kind of wanted some of those outside takes. I wanted the talking head interviews. I wanted to know some of the background of the band that perhaps I didn't know. So the like limited, very subjective point of view of the film, I think was very frustrating to me the first time I saw it. But watching it last night, I was like, this is a very well constructed, very labor intensive movie. Like I can't even imagine how like the editing process of this. But yes,
it is amazing what they must have gone through in terms of how many hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage he must have had that they combed through and put together a both coherent and comprehensive narrative of the period that it covers. It's you couldn't tell a more complete linear story of his life during those years, even if you had a scripted film with taking advantage of voiceovers and MTVs and MTV cuts and all that shit. They like it's amazing how much footage he had and what stellar work they did to put it all together.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been hiding the ball a little bit, but I totally agree. Like going into this knowing nothing about this band other than there was a dude named Shannon Hoon who died in '95 and whatever. I mean, I couldn't have told you why he was in the Don't Cry video. I knew nothing.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that he had a girlfriend, he had a kid, he had whatever. Like I had no background of any of that. And I thought like, wow, this is a hell of a movie. First of all, like he had a real visual sense. Like,
yes,
I mean, I know there's, this was a Herculean. That's a really hard word to say. Let's just not ever.
You did a great job, though.
No, but thank you.
Sounded like butter in my ears.
No, but really, let's just not ever say that again. This is a challenge to put together. But and so no knock to the editors and the other directors, but you really get a sense that he did have a visual sense. There's a lot of crappy camcorder footage out there from 1990 to 1995 that you could try to assemble and it would look like junk, and somehow he was able to capture his worldview. And I think it's right that he gets director credit because they're like the visual sense is really seems to be his, and it really does come through. I mean, he really was an artist in a way. And and so yeah, and it is really coherent. And yeah, I mean, because of the nature of it, you don't get much of the other characters. Like other than his girlfriend, there's really very few people who, and his family, his mom and dad, but like there's the other guys in the band, you don't know their names, you don't really get, like I have no idea which one's the guitar player and which one's the drummer and whatever.
There are band members in the room sometimes, but there's never any way to know like their names,
right? If you told me like, oh, there was a lot of turmoil in the band and like they had 4 different bass players during this period of time, I would never know. Like you would not know that from watching the movie unless you like really watch closely and you're like, okay, that's the same guy. But like so it's not that kind of movie. But in terms of like a found footage, for lack of a better term, like kind of documentary, like verite, it's so skillfully done, and it's so winning, and it has, because of his visual sense, it has such a, like, really interesting aesthetic, and you and this, um he did seem to be like a very observant person, and you
Yes.
get that sense, like there was a reason why he did this.
Yeah.
I mean, he said he did it because there was so much going on that he wanted to be able to look back later and remember it, which of course is like bittersweet, but he was doing it way before he became famous and way before the band blew up. Like for 3 of the 5 years of this, like nobody knew who his band was pretty much. So like that wasn't the entire reason. Like he just was a creator, like somebody who wanted to create things.
And it to your point, it doesn't feel like you're, for the most part, it doesn't feel like you're watching home video footage. It feels like you're watching a director's point of view, just with a crappy camera. Really,
Right. Yeah.
you know.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
he definitely wanted this footage to be seen by someone, by
Yeah,
sometime somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah.
He comes at it with a real artistic sensibility. I was writing notes as I was watching it, and at one point I wrote, like, this guy wants to be in film at some point. And then like 10 minutes later he says, I want to be in film at some point, like he actually says it. And it's like, yeah, well, it comes across, man. It seems the way you think about the importance of, and the way he just thinks about how interesting it is that you can now film everything you want. And
Yeah.
he even says something at some point like, there's going to be people whose entire lives are on film, like, which
Yeah.
at that time was a real, like, that was like futurism to be thinking that way.
I mean, that was like pre the Truman Show.
Yeah,
He probably gave the Truman Show writers the idea.
their idea.
But it's also, I also really love kind of the editing tricks that they did to like make certain scenes relevant now. There was like
Oh yeah,
like that there was that scene that you just mentioned, and like the relevance of like constant streaming, constant content now that we have. And then there's like little uh like inside jokes, like the Trump Tower kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah.
um
yeah. Good.
there's
That
other
take
stuff,
ages
but,
well.
like,
He drives by Trump Tower and goes, Trump Tower, ew.
yeah.
It's like 1992.
Yeah, it was like
He was ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
early take there.
Oh, I'm sure I probably would have done the same thing if I drove by Trump Tower in 1992. I mean,
Yeah.
if I was already a hater of Blind Melon, I certainly was a hater of Trump. Yeah. So, okay. So Ryan, so like, yeah, interested in your take now. Like, you're a connoisseur of the arts. So you said that you were disappointed.
Some say.
Yeah, some say. You
Some
said you were
say.
disappointed the first time you saw it because you wanted more. I mean, I guess if you're a fan of a band, and like, I don't think there's a whole lot of other Blind Melon documentaries. Maybe there are, but not a lot. So you've been a fan of this band for 30 years or whatever, and then all of a sudden there's a fairly prominent documentary coming out about it. I can understand the disappointment where you're like, wait, but like, I don't get to hear about the time the bass player did whatever. But okay, so looking at it now, I mean, what's your how has your view evolved of the film?
Oh, like I said, I think it's a great film. I think it's brilliantly put together. There are like tons of narrative arcs that are going on. But there's also just like really good characterization. And I don't know if that's, Shannon's just Mr. Hoon's natural presence in front of the screen, or if that's like constructed through editing. But like even the beginning when they're in Indiana, and there's a scene when they're at this tractor pull. It's like there's such a good like character development and such a good like setting up, the rise and then the fall. You had these like humble beginnings. In fact, every scene where he is back at home and just kind of you see that early 90s middle America like contrasted to his like Los Angeles, like, I guess that was kind of post hair metal at the time, like lifestyle, hanging out with these. I just loved every time they went back home and you saw him. Like in the beginning, he's such a like this corn-fed bro. Like
Right.
like you said, he was on the polo team, or he was,
And
I think he
was
was actually.
he was
like,
a standout athlete, pole vault, football, and wrestling.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, just like this Midwest
Nailed it,
bro
Dave.
who,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I knew, like going to college in Ohio, I knew 150 of these kids, like mostly good kid who gets into trouble and smokes weed, and it's like then you sit down with him and you're like, oh, kid's actually smart. He was good at he was on the wrestling team, so I wouldn't have assumed he was smart, but he is. He's a smart kid, and like that all comes across in the beginning. They like really set him up that as a sweet guy who has some big dreams, and he's just smart enough that you might actually believe he's going to pull it off before you even hear him sing in the movie.
Yeah, I mean that definitely comes across that I mean, obviously he filmed this footage and then it was assembled, sort of lovingly years later.
Mhm.
So like it wasn't intended to be, exposing him for being a jerk. And
Right.
but so all I have to go on is the movie. But nonetheless, yeah. I mean, that's just what I kept thinking is like he just seems like the sweetest guy. His family has problems with drugs and alcohol and so forth, but they all seem like kind of salt of the earth people. Like his
Yes.
mom and dad, the time you spend with them in the movie, which is like kind of brief snatches, but like it's like his parents are separated and then he's talking to his dad about how like they might get back together and he's like, well, who else is crazy enough to love you, mom, love you
Yeah.
like mom, or something like
Yeah.
that, like
You two are both so too crazy for anybody else to love you, and he just like has a good laugh about it, and the dad says, "Ah, that's what I said," and it's like,
yeah,
it's great. It's like it's just such a classic, like warts and all family that's not
yeah,
willing to or not afraid to be honest about who they
yeah.
are.
Was that the same convo when they were talking about when the dad was talking about his DUI and they were joking about the DUI?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
That was a very tender, sweet moment. I felt.
yeah. And then his dad's going out to work, and he's like talking about how like you know there's nothing good about going to work, and Shannon just like laughs and says, "What about coming home?" He goes, "Okay, coming home's good." Like it's just like it's just a really sweet relationship he has with his dad, and sweet relationship he has with mom. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some stuff with him and his girlfriend that isn't so sweet, just because he's constantly talking about how he needs to stop drinking, and it makes him act in a way that he's not proud of, and we don't really see any of that stuff. So allowing for the fact that there are probably more problems here that we don't get to see, he comes across as a very sweet guy in this movie.
Well, the times when he kind of goes on a bender,
Yeah,
like he tends not to film,
right.
and so you get him talking to the camera saying like, well, sorry, I haven't really filmed anything the last couple months. Things were a little up and down. So you don't really
Yeah,
get that side just because that wasn't captured and
yeah,
he wasn't in a state of mind to film it or he didn't want to or whatever.
yeah.
So you don't really know the ups and downs. But you
You,
get a
you
sense.
kind of just know after the fact that he's just had it down.
Right.
You know. Yeah.
Exactly. Um, but the girlfriend, oh shoot, now I can't remember her name.
Lisa.
Lisa, yeah. Um, she's with him. I mean, he talks about how like they were high school sweethearts and they went to prom together, and she's with him, through thick and thin. You don't see. I mean, maybe he's out there carousing from time to time in his life. You don't know. He's not filming that wisely,
Right.
nor would you expect him to. But he's she. I don't really ever get a sense because again, they don't lay things out that clearly of like whether she comes to LA with him or like if it's kind of a long distance thing and they go, he is kind of going back and forth. The whole geography and all that stuff is just not really super clear. But again, whenever she does show up, it's like a very, it's like she's,
Yeah.
I don't like, she just seems like the coolest person, you know? I
Yeah.
don't know. Like he knows he found a real one.
Here's another example of like him having a real director's sensibility is that he takes the camera and films the the phone and plays all the messages that he's not returning.
Right. That was a great scene.
And you get like 6 straight messages of somebody calling and him not calling them, then calling back and getting increasingly angry. And like to have the sense in like, okay, I'm a person who's decided I like filming myself, to be like, I'm going to have this B-roll
Of my
of the
mom chewing me out on
of
the answering machine.
yeah, the threads of my life that I'm not keeping up with. That's going to be so useful as a piece of documentary footage. It's really like it works better than a voiceover would have, or or like you could see a fictional film include exactly that snippet. He's thinking about his life that way, and I don't know, maybe that's like a sign of some sort of mental instability or something. But to like view yourself as a character in a film in
Well,
such a way,
yeah, I feel like that also that kind of aspect comes out when he leaves his camera rolling when the band is having that meeting
Yeah.
about whether or not like they're gonna do the Rolling Stone cover as a band or if he's gonna do it solo. Like kind of pulling a George Costanza. Um, but I don't think like that might be viewed that act might be viewed as being like a paranoid sort of thing, but I really think that it goes back to what Andy was saying. Like I think it's just fodder in this like cinematic version of his life that perhaps he might make in the future, or it's
Just like
some sort of
having an artistic
yeah.
eye. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like from the angle of the camera that he kind of like set it up, and the other bandmates don't know that the camera's running
Right.
while they're having this conversation about like, is it okay that like whether because Rolling Stone wants to just have, of course, just Shannon on the cover.
Yeah, and they
Because
say
he's
that I think they say
himbo.
the two bands that they had just had on the cover, that they had full bands and now they want just a guy. I think they say Spin Doctors and Blues Traveler, right? Or Spin Doctors and Smashing Pumpkins, maybe.
Something like that. Yeah.
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 And yeah, they're like, well, too bad. Get somebody else.
Also, like Sports Illustrated has recently gone under, and people have been sharing like what is the most quintessential Sports Illustrated cover that you remember from your youth. That Rolling Stone cover is one of the quintessential Rolling Stone covers I remember having.
Yes. Same.
I had that on my wall.
That's hot. I don't know. I don't know what to say.
They're all naked. The whole band is naked. That's why I had it.
Oh man, when the band is ribbing him for having like that tiny little roll,
Which
like
is the first
like
thing
in
that-
his belly roll. Yeah,
It's the first thing they see. The moment they unwrap the cover, they're like, "Oh, Shannon, look, you're a little overweight." And it's like it's the 1 inch,
tiny like this tiny little drip of a skin, and I'm sitting there and I'm like eating nachos off my belly. I'm like, yeah, Shannon, you look disgusting.
You look like shit. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, and maybe like that moment's revealing because maybe maybe there was some vanity there. Like you don't get that in the film, but maybe that's revealing that like he was probably, he did have he presented himself a certain way, and
Look,
he
it's
wanted to
not
have a certain image.
easier. It's not easier on a day-to-day basis to have hair down to your ass. Like
I
no
mean,
one
that's true.
does that because they're like, I just don't care, man. It's like it's harder. You do it because you think it looks good.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
That's
okay.
true.
Everyone has a sense of style. It's
And
fine.
the man had good hair. Let's
Yeah,
just say.
he had beautiful hair.
Yeah. And boy, yeah, just kind of circling back to the family. Another great moment is then when, of course, when they are, the band eventually all of them are on the cover of Rolling Stone, and then you see the family all getting together and seeing it, and of course they all
And they
bust out
wrote
their-
a song about it. Like right? That's what the song was about. Or was that an already existing song? I don't know. It sounded
Yes.
like
they're singing the Dr. Hook song, the cover of the Rolling Stone. They're all busting out guitars, and they're singing it, and they're all like in perfect harmony.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is where it all comes from. Like,
it's a musical
yes,
family.
the mom and everybody, like they're singing like the freaking Carter family over here.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
and you get this sense that oh yeah, he's not just. It's not a situation where like nobody in my family had any interest in the arts and nobody was musical. Like they're all, you know what I mean. He's just the one who went out and did stuff. But just in that one, again, 30-second clip, you see kind of it's again. There's a lot of detail packed into this movie.
It's amazing how much detail is in this movie. It is amazing to me that they have the footage that they have.
Yeah, I think I just outed myself as not knowing that was a song that existed. So that makes my opinion on that family less.
Okay.
Just kidding.
They did not spontaneously compose a song that had been written 20 years prior.
Yeah.
Damn it. I thought the Hoons were something else. Now I don't even like Blind Melon anymore.
So I listened to there's a great podcast. Here's a podcast rec. It's a podcast called The Tape Archive. They take old journalist interviews with musicians that were recorded on tape and used for a feature or something like that, and they put the whole interview out as a recording. And music writer from the Indianapolis Star had interviewed Shannon Hoon about a month before he died during this period. And so I just listened to that episode, and it was very good. One of the things they say is that that the lore around Lafayette was that when Axl was kicking around out there was no expectation that he was going to become a big star, but Shannon Hoon had made it clear to everyone in town that he was going to be a big star. Now the interviewer relates that anecdote to Shannon Hoon, and Shannon Hoon disagrees vehemently. It's like, that is not accurate. Who told you that? That is not true. And then he over the course of the conversation, he softens a little bit that maybe there's a little element of truth to it. But that's sort of the thing. And then so he in this movie he goes to LA, and he sort of has as it's told here, like a classic LA recording contract story, like very much like the petty version of arriving to LA and instantly becoming the subject of a bidding war to get a major recording deal.
Yeah, and I mean it's nice that like your high school buddy is Axl Rose in 1990. That's pretty much opening any door you could possibly. Plus you're Shannon Hoon, not a not compelling figure on your own.
Yeah. So basically they say that they had like 5 songs. Like they barely even had enough songs to like play a show. And there's already people who are fighting to sign them.
Yeah, I thought I loved the scene when they're up on the roof of the Capitol Records and they're signing, and it's just like these 20-year-old kids, but they look like weirdly 40.
Yes.
And but I also thought it was interesting that like that was 1990, correct? And the album did not come out until like 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah.
And
Came
it's
out in
just
92,
like
so yeah.
92. And so yeah, it just shows you how slow, like
yeah,
perhaps like, that Axl Rose kind of bump helped them get that. But yeah, like you said, it's crazy that they maybe had 5 or 6 songs when they signed that.
Well,
And
yeah,
so
and I think Change, like he had written that like in high school. That was a band, like a song he had written before he even knew the people in Blind Melon. So like they're barely a band at this point. They're guys who are just like getting together, and they instantly have a contract.
So the timing is that, I mean, so he was in the Don't Cry video, which was like, famously GNR held that song back off of Appetite for Destruction. They had that song all along, and they're like, you know what? Like, we're going to hold this one back for the second album. And like, they knew that was going to be a hit. And so, I mean, that was the second video from the Use Your Illusion cycle, because the first was You Could Be Mine. And so it was the whole Terminator 2 thing. And so that didn't come out till late summer or fall of 1991, and Shannon Hoon was going to be in the video. So I think that was the timing of things. Like, even if they had the album recorded, it was like, okay, you're going to be in this huge Guns N' Roses video, and then we're going to like release the album after, like let the anticipation build. Who is this guy in this video? Oh, we're going to get, we're going to get you on MTV and whatever. So like there was a whole media rollout. I think that's the reason for the timing. I don't think it was just the gears grinding slowly. This is my interpretation based on somebody who knows nothing about Blind Melon, but knows a fair amount about Guns N' Roses and can just kind of picture myself in that time.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of a thing. It wasn't like that. I mean, even though the song was a slow build, it was still like when the No Rain video finally kind of picked up, it seemed like this band had been around forever from my perspective, because I'd been hearing about them.
Oh, that's the guy in Don't Cry. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he has his own band. It's Blind Melon. Oh, the album's coming out, but then it just was like again, it didn't like explode right away.
Yeah. I mean, just from a marketing perspective, I think, Ryan, you had said that there was you could hear some Guns N' Roses elements in Blind Melon. I think that's true. But if you're like a straight metalhead who just loved Axl and Slash,
Right.
and you're like, who's this? What's this new spin-off band we've got going on? Let me dial it up. And like No Rain starts blasting. It's like,
Like,
you know, like
oh,
what the
bummer.
yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
I just spent $12.99 on this CD.
Which back then was $100 for the
So-
younger viewers, listeners.
So other things that they have like included here is like Shannon Hoon watching the LA riots and like reacting in real time to like fires and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think like Bill Clinton's election, you know, like
Yeah.
there's like very much like a like
It's a nice little history lesson.
Yeah, we're
like
gonna
from
walk you through
1990
the
to
early
95.
90s here. You know, we're gonna get a little taste of everything. He says he's talking to a reviewer at one point. He's like, I think he says, they all say we're gonna be destined to be one of the new Nirvanas, even though we're not from Seattle. It's like, all right, we're situating you like in, you know, what are they saying in the critical community about you? They're like, that makes its way in. You know, it's
Right.
It's really, we keep saying it, but it's just very impressively put together.
It did make me
Yeah.
think
Well,
when they're on the tour and you see them watching the LA riots, you know, so they're like in some hotel room or something, as I recall, or backstage or something. So like I was trying to figure out, like, they don't really, this movie doesn't situate you in LA at all. Like, even though he's living in LA, like, you don't get a sense of like what parts of LA he's in, and when he's watching the riots,
What clubs
like,
were they hanging out in?
or even like
you know?
when they're watching the riots, like they're not reacting as though that's their city exactly. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're not like, I know that corner, or that's
Yeah.
where the blah 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 is, or whatever. Like, I mean, LA is huge, so you just don't know if like how remote it seemed to them, or if it was like, is my apartment on fire? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't get that
Yeah.
sense, which would, you know, I don't know.
He never like really stopped living in Lafayette. He like when they took off and he got some money, he bought a house for him and Lisa in Lafayette near his parents. And when they weren't on tour, he would be there. That like footage at the end with him and his daughter, that's his backyard in Lafayette. So like he probably had a place in LA, either a hotel he mostly lived at or an apartment he rented, and then they spent a lot of time on the road, obviously. But he like, there was never a time where like there's like a tearful goodbye from him leaving Lafayette and not coming back for 5 years or something like that, you know?
Anyway, Ryan, you were gonna say.
I can't remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, there was even like a shot of the Tanya Harding, like,
Yes,
Oh,
Tanya
yeah.
Harding,
that
that's
thing.
right.
And one of them
So,
says
yeah.
like, Tanya, turn this into something positive. I don't know if it's Shannon or somebody says this. Like,
And I feel like little clips like that must have been the editor's dream. Like, just like these, you know, anchor points where they could, you know, tie something to the movie, or just like, you know, create this sense of chronology.
Well, there's to that point, there is like a haunting element of this movie that never goes away. I don't know if you guys had this experience, but I know when Shannon Hoon died.
Well, they tell you also right up front, like,
yeah, right.
This
They tell
is
you
the last day of his life, and then they go back and you see it chronologically.
and then and then you you're never able to escape it because he's using a camcorder, and camcorders at this time had a timestamp in the lower right hand corner.
Right.
So the entire movie has like an upside down hourglass, just ticking away the days of Shannon Hoon's life. And you like, it's you know, I don't know if that's like a gift to the filmmakers or if they even thought about it, but I couldn't stop staring at it the whole time. It was just like, it's like a video game character's life bar or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, David, before you mentioned something, like, you described this as a found footage movie, and I think that's totally accurate, because like when I first saw it, I thought that last shot, or the first and last shot, that's going to be like a snuff film. Like, we're going to see him die on camera. Like, his camera was going to be rolling when he died. And so in that sense, there is that narrative tension, and almost like not quite a horror movie, but there's like that darkness that underneath, like the ticking time clock. Yeah.
Well, and also the movie has an arc in the sense that, you know, the first half of the movie is like the rise,
Yeah.
and I mean, he has alcohol problems. He goes to rehab, and he seems okay for a little while. And there's even like a scene where like Mike McCready is in rehab from Pearl Jam and calls him because like he's a guy who's recently got out of rehab and he wants to know how to live on the road and whatever. And so like, and then like you absolutely see the part where like the needle drugs or hard stuff comes in and like his eyes like just go black. Like
Yeah. He
when you see
says in
him
the
like
movie, like, I decided to cop some, what does he say? Junk, I think, or something
yeah,
like
or
that.
somebody offered me
Some
something.
smack. He
Smack,
said
he says
smack.
Yeah,
smack,
he's like, I decided to cop some smack. Yeah, which is like, again, he's filming himself, like starting a drug habit. Like, who does that?
Yeah.
Like, guys,
Um,
all right, today I'm gonna cop some smack.
Wait, I just had a quick question. Do you think they had to get Mike McCready's permission to use that clip in this movie?
I don't know.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think so. I mean, there's nothing, there's nothing that's not public information that's being shared, right? Like, it doesn't
Yeah,
put him in a bad light, and
McCready's
like,
talked about being in a.
it's known thing that he was in rehab.
Mhm.
So I don't think so. Yeah.
Hmm.
Is this a legal question? I'm off the clock.
This, yeah. Oh, sorry. I'll send the check in the mail.
Spillable.
That-
I don't think that's a good question. I don't think so though. I don't think you need. I mean, yeah, I don't think he need to get permission from all those people.
Well, and so he when he goes to rehab, the first we see him break sobriety. He says like, I just broke my. He tells somebody earlier that
But
I've
that
been
was
sober
drinking.
for. Yeah, that was right. But he tells him like I've been sober for a year, and then he says I broke my 11 months of sobriety. Actually, it was 10 months, and it's like that sort of thing is very familiar if anybody to anybody who's known anyone who's struggled with addiction. And then he goes home for a little while, and he says he just needs to go home and get his head straight. And there's a clip of him like working out the arrangement to the song "Walk," which is a song I really like, and like it's a really rough early version of it. He has not figured out the arrangement yet at all. He's like breaking it, and or he's just fucked up. I don't know which exactly. But like up until that point in the movie, there really hasn't been much music at all, and so.
but they do use the music whenever. I don't know about you guys, but whenever they showed like him doing like recording vocals for No Rain, or like at the very beginning, he's doing an intro to another song whose name I can't remember, but like it is just haunting. That guy's voice is so distinct and like I think criminally underrated from the 90s.
I completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, even as a famous on the record No Rain hater from back in the day, when there's a scene in the movie where like you hear him, he's in the booth recording the vocals to No Rain, and again he just like threw the camcorder on, and so he's got the headphones on, so you don't hear the music, you just hear him a cappella singing the vocal, and it's like it is pretty chilling. It's like, damn, this is good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it is like he's really got the goods. And the rest of the movie, there's again, the music is very sparse. He must have like if he's out there filming, like he must have filmed jam sessions and practice sessions and all kinds of other stuff, and you don't really get a lot of that. And I'm kind of wondering why. I mean, you don't get any, there's very little music in the movie, and so I don't even know what to make of that as somebody who really hasn't heard most of the music. Like I don't have a sense of what their music sounds like other than No Rain very much. You know what I mean? It's an interesting choice.
We should get together and listen to Soup in its entirety this weekend.
But before we started recording, I was like, Ryan, do not make this into a Soup discussion board. Like, this is about the movie. We're not going to talk about the best album.
You can. I know you're a moderator of Reddit/Soup. So many people think is about the food.
12 members strong, baby.
So many people keep getting disappointed when they go there for minestrone like recipes.
I know.
Instead,
Real Soup is kicking our ass. The subreddit for Real Soup
You,
Ah.
you,
Just
you
owning
know
it.
what I learned today when I listened to that interview that I never knew, Ryan, is Lemonade, the closing track on Soup. You know the horn section there. You know who that is? That's Kermit
Oh
Ruffin.
my God.
That's
That's
Kermit.
right.
Wow.
That's
Crazy.
right. I listened to half of that podcast
Okay.
and I was like very into it, but it was like right before my dentist thing.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like like all the scenes in Louisiana in New Orleans,
Yeah.
like that is such a, and you probably need to like be able to know the songs on Soup to know it, but like I think that this comes through in the movie that New Orleans had like such a impact on the band, and like it seems like both heaven and hell
Yes.
for Shannon,
It's
because it's like
they're clearly.
every vice is at his fingertips, and
He
yeah.
says it like 3 times, and
Mm.
like the first time I believe the first time they go to New Orleans in the movie, they go to the graveyards,
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
and and then he the next time they go is when he's walking around the house that they rented out to record, and the the like landlord or producer, maybe the guy who's like sitting at the piano, says, are you from here? And he basically says, no, I can't, like, this place is too much for me, I wouldn't be able to make it here.
Yeah.
And
At one
like,
point, he says, like, I don't think I should ever come back here again.
yes, and if you know Shannon Hoon, he dies in New Orleans. So it's like all of these things are like very intentionally placed to as haunting little reminders of what's coming.
All right. So, but other than that, I mean, I just want to hear your guys' takes about like the little music you do hear. Like, do you think you get
Yeah.
a sense of the band or what they're about, or you think it's just
I mean, so my thought was that the reason music doesn't play a larger part is like one of the limitations of the camcorder thing, like that you can't do
audio?
like a like good audio or a sweeping like a montage scene or something like that. You can't do the like the 20-minute stretch where everything's going right, set to change or something like that.
Right.
You can't it and that sort of just that's just the effect. And so most of the music you get is like him with an acoustic guitar
Right.
practicing songs or something like that, which is cool in a different way, but I don't know that it necessarily tells you what Blind Melon sounds like, really.
Are the clips
Yeah.
from Woodstock 94 are the
Yeah.
only parts I think where it breaks from the camcorder.
Unless he gave somebody else a camcorder, I'm not sure.
Yeah, but then they
Yeah,
show
no,
like
I think those
reflips
were
of
like,
Bob Dylan and stuff, right?
Yeah, they do.
oh right. I thought you were talking about like the polished broadcast footage.
Yeah,
from-
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He didn't. He wasn't recording that.
Yeah. Well, he
Well,
wasn't.
He wasn't.
recording it.
Right. Well, yeah, it
yeah.
could be somebody else's, but yeah, it's it's one of the few like things that doesn't strictly follow the rule of like this was Shannon with the camera.
Yeah.
Which I think, as you said, like you don't get a sense of any of the other band members in this movie. I think this is that decision to keep the music sparse is really fair to them because they were very integral to writing all that music. Like, I can't remember their names now, but
They were songwriters. They had like 5 songwriters.
they're songwriters, yeah. And if you see the music credits at the end, you can see like so many songs were written by other members of the band.
So
Chris,
right, so
Chris
it would have made
Tate
it all about
something.
Shannon, like as the musician
Yeah.
as well.
Mhm.
I see what you're saying. So I was watching this movie and I'm thinking like, because again, coming at this as somebody who doesn't have a lot of background with the guy or the band, and I'm just like wondering like, could this same movie exist if somebody who was not a famous person, like who didn't go on to be a famous person, had just filmed themselves for 5 years? Like, I mean, the reason why it exists and like, as a commercial project, and we're talking about now, is because it's about a famous musician, right? I mean, that's the impetus for getting the funding to make the film or whatever, right? It's not just about Joe Schmo, who was a truck driver who filmed himself. But like, I kind of feel like, I would love to see movies like that, and maybe they exist and I just don't know about it. But like, I like the format enough that if they're, I don't know. I mean, nobody would even know, like, I guess, or nobody would have the wherewithal to like go out and make assemble a film of some woman who worked at a diner but filmed her life for 5 years from 1990 to 1995. I don't know,
Yeah.
and maybe it's like I have affection for the time because I was there, like I was alive then. I don't know.
Well,
But
there's definitely some 90s nostalgia in here that is a draw of the film for sure. At least for me, I can say.
right.
Without question. I mean, I think there's something to that. I think, that's the theory that a lot of TV producers wrapped their arms around in the years immediately following Shannon Hoon's death, basically, is that like you can put a camera on anything and make it exciting. And
Right. But that's different. What's important about that, what's relevant about this is that it's like the time when the technology was accessible, so somebody could, without investing a lot of money, like you buy some cassettes once in a while and that's it, could do this. But also it was before the concept of reality had TV existed. People didn't just naturally know how to speak or behave in front of a film camera, which now everybody does. Like there's that naivete is gone. And it wasn't like everybody had a camera in their pockets, they could film themselves all the time, so you're just overwhelmed with it. So it's really this period of time when that is special in that way. And it's like, I would love to see a series of movies like this, just about different people that just happen to film stuff, and see how that works, even if they're short films or something. I don't know. It just like kind of struck me like, wow, like this is such a cool format and such an interesting period of time, and we're fortunate that this exists because of this guy, but there must be more of this out there.
Yeah.
So David, I must ask you,
Yes.
watching this movie, but not being a melon head, what do you think of their live performances? Like as a band, do you think would you see Blind Melon?
Yeah. Was that compelling to you?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I can say one way or the other. There's brief clips of him on stage, like being very energetic, and there's a lot going on.
What about the long track at Woodstock '94 when he sings "Soup"?
It doesn't really grab me. I mean, like look, maybe it's not fair to compare to like people at the top of the game or whatever, but like that early footage of Pearl Jam in the Pearl Jam 20 documentary, like every single live clip of them, like Eddie Vedder is just like so magnetic. And it's not a knock on Shannon Hoon or the band, but like, you're talking about like just absolutely one of the some of the best to ever do it. And so I'm comparing in the time, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So this stuff, when I watch the footage of his contemporary Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam at that time, it's like, oh my God, I would, if I had a DeLorean right now and could go back to this show while I'm watching this movie, I would go there. Like I would kill to be there. And watching Blind Melon, I didn't have the same, like, sure, I would have gone and it would be cool, whatever, but it didn't grab me the same way.
Yeah. Because I came out of this, and then the subsequent watching of the entire Woodstock 94 performance.
Which to listeners, I should say, the full Woodstock 94 performance is available on YouTube, and it's fucking great.
It is. I just had no idea. Like I came out of this thinking, man, Blind Melon, at least Shannon Hoon, he was a fucking front man. Like I just found his stage presence super compelling, and I did not expect that. And like Andy was saying, the Woodstock 94 thing, there's a reason that's like such a long clip in the movie. It's just like it's a beautiful song, and I mean, I think it is. I don't know if David's over here.
No, maybe if I had more of a relationship with the music, you know what I mean? Then that would have landed for me differently. But I just, I don't know. It was like first time hearing this song, I guess, whatever. And I was like, all right, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't come together because I wasn't in it.
In the early days of the pandemic, me and a bunch of buddies Zoomed together and watched, and then each of us in our separate houses watched the Woodstock 94.
It's so good.
It's
like one of those.
94?
Just the Blind Melon set.
Okay.
The 40.
It's like a career making, and maybe I'm being hyperbolic.
No, I think
but I think it's like a career making performance, and it's like rumored that he was on acid LSD at the time.
Yeah,
which I don't know. Just seeing like all his other performance, he's equally intense in every performance. So Maybe I don't know if it's a rumor, if it's confirmed somewhere, but
Yeah, I think it's certainly a well-traveled rumor if it's not real.
So we kind of
Yeah.
have just kind of danced around. Like we haven't really
Yeah, we got
gone,
it.
linearly through the film, which is fine.
Yeah.
Uh,
We should say a couple other elements. There are some like stretches where, based on what Shannon was filming, they have, sort of abstract stream of consciousness sections that are not him recording conversations with his bandmates or, phone conversations with his wife back home. He's like filming impressionistic things in a city or in his hotel or in his room or in some parts sort of seeming like he's maybe losing his grip a little bit, and that gets like a more frenetic editing touch. There's like it really is, can't be overstated what a complete visual package he's given them, and then how fully they've turned it into um, a complete movie.
Yeah, like the editing between scenes is very deliberate, and
Yeah.
they give you these little sort of montages to transition you, and it's really seamless. I mean, it's so well done.
It's almost Brett Morganish at some points, like
A little bit.
yeah.
But yeah, so
A
anyway.
couple stray thoughts I've got hidden around here. He talks about a Christmas show that they had just played. The bill was Porno for Pyros, Blind Melon, Smashing Pumpkins, and Cranberries. Take me there. That would be
very
Yep.
that.
very
Agreed.
1994.
I'm happy to be there if they would have me. He he talks about just having tears come to his eyes when he was on tour with Soundgarden and Neil Young, and
Oh
he's
yeah.
watched.
Dude, that was sorry to interrupt, but
Go.
that's like another like very endearing thing to me about
Yes.
Shannon Hoon. It's just his pure love of like the music that came before him and just like the other artists that that surround him.
He's constantly listening to the
yeah.
Rolling Stones.
Yes.
And yeah, he talks about how he heard Neil Young sing Helpless and how he's like, I didn't even remember that music could do that or something like
Yeah.
that, like.
And the guy he's talking to says, "Well, think about it, man. In 2010, somebody might be getting jacked to your song." And I was
Dude.
listening to it, and I was like, "Dude, make it 2003, and like I can
Yeah.
tell you, it happened."
I did in fact get jacked to that song.
I'm getting jacked to this song now in 2025. 2024.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Yeah, no, that's great. And I was wondering about the sync licenses because you do get like snatches of him, driving into the car and the Rolling Stones, the Ventilator Blues is playing or whatever. And I'm like, did they pay like the sync licenses for this? Like, or are they just kind of like, well, maybe nobody will notice that this is kind of in the background, So very curious because it seems like, this is not the highest budget of projects, and kind of imagine unless the Stones are just cool and they're like, Hoon, whatever he wants, man.
Yeah. Well, Mick and Keith wanted to meet him, and he's
No, Mick and Charlie.
Oh, it was Mick and Charlie wanted to meet him. That's right.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, I'm available.
Yeah, they've got time. Yeah.
Hilarious. But so the movie, you've got the rise, and then you've got once the drugs come in, the vibes are not as immaculate, I would say. And it, of course, then is also the period of time when Lisa gets pregnant and the baby's coming, and it's just, that's the point where it really gets dark because you're just, like this baby is never going to remember. You know what I mean? It's like this baby's born and like whatever, she was like 9 months old when he died or something like that. It was like, just watching that was rough,
dude. And also, but like this, the birth scene, he points to the camera like as the baby is coming. Is like, you, man, you had this all planned out.
He's wearing a hat
back to
during the
concept.
delivery scene. I know.
He's wearing
I feel like they wouldn't.
He takes
let me
a
wear
phone
hat.
call right as the baby is born.
Yeah.
He's like, this is baby's first phone call.
Yeah.
Pretty cool vibes.
Yeah, two quotes. What he says is about New Orleans: "When I leave this city, I don't ever want to come back to it."
Yeah.
And then he also, in that last phone conversation with Lisa, and he says the truth is I have to get off that fucking bus.
Yeah.
an hour later, they find his body on the bus.
Yeah. And the footage of him the last day in the hotel room, it just doesn't. It's kind of unremarkable.
No, it does.
That's
Yeah, it's you
that's the
don't
thing
you
about it.
expect to see it like, oh, dude, he's gaunt. He's there. There's nothing left of him. He's
He sounds like
chasing
he's
death at this point.
despairing.
He's despairing. And it's like not really. And like the full interview he did a month before this that I listened to today, he sounds every bit like the intelligent, sweet, like sincere guy that comes across in this movie. Now, whatever, it's an hour interview,
Right.
but there doesn't seem to be much of a trail of Shannon Hoon's life having left him before he died.
Yeah. So you just kind of see him like whatever dicking around in a hotel room, and then like 2 hours later he ODs on coke in the tour bus, and it's like, damn, that must have been a lot of coke or something, because it doesn't.
I think it was
I'm assuming they did an autopsy and it was coke. I mean, it
was
wasn't.
a speedball, I believe.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just coke, which I was like, all right, man, dude, all right, way to go. But yeah, not a good situation, and it seems as though Lisa and his daughter,
his daughter has an Instagram presence where she promotes this movie.
Yeah, and she also does music.
She's a musician.
Like.
Yeah.
And Lisa, it seems like got married, and from all you can tell, like seems to have a nice life. And again, she posts stuff like once in a while in tribute to Shannon, and seems to whatever as far as any can tell has made her peace with the situation. So I mean that's about as good as it gets.
Yeah.
We don't know about the rest of the family and how they dealt with all this. I don't know if his folks are still around, whatever, but I can't imagine it was I don't even know, but yeah, it I mean, for all the movie is like kind of light and you see this charming guy, sort of on this rocket ship to fame. It is real heavy. I mean, the last half hour of it probably is it's about as heavy as any rock docs that we've seen are gonna get.
Yeah, I mean, I'll preempt where we're going here and say, I think this is a spectacular movie. I mean, one of the better movies we've done on this show, but it is not a fun watch. Even the good times, there is a ghost in the corner watching you watch the movie. It is not
right.
It's not a fun time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. Like, I mean, the Minutemen movie. You know what I mean? Like, you watch any movie where this person died young.
Right.
It can't like avoid that. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like there's no distractions. There's no Ben Gibbard being like,
right,
Blind Melon was everything to me.
like no Blind Melon, no death cab, and no postal service. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing to like to pull you away from the train wreck that's happening before you.
How much footage of his dong do you think they left on the cutting room floor?
There's no way that was the first and only time they did that, right?
I was thinking there must be tapes full of like his dong. Just absolute tapes.
That is, I think you're probably right. And they were finally like, it would be a lie of omission for us not to include any of
the Hoon estate. The Hoon estate respectfully requests more dong footage.
I mean, we recently, Ryan, did an episode on The Song Remains the Same, and I thought that was as much of the male member as we were gonna contend with in the Rock Docs canon, because there's a lot of it in that one, but and it's clothed, but it's fighting as hard as it can. But yeah, that Shannon lets it all hang out.
Yeah,
and hey, man. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's
it's been a good evening, you two. I shall retire.
I'm glad.
Anyway, all right.
Fantastic movie.
Anything else we have to say?
Honestly, Ryan, like between Guar and Song Remains the Same, or excuse me, and All I Can Say, you've brought two unlikely heart tuggers at you. I mean, I guess Shannon shouldn't be that unlikely, but that surprising. But both of these movies are emotional journeys.
Oh, thank you. Yes. No, I feel the same way. I love them both. That's why.
Next time, maybe pick a
I
movie
don't know.
that's just dumb and fun and doesn't have a heartbreaking ending.
All right. Sophie's Choice, the band. Have you heard of this band? An excellent documentary.
Amy, let's have a good one. Let's have fun. Anyway, good times. Yeah. No, I I don't know that I am any more or less or otherwise a fan of Blind Melon because I still have not really heard very much of their music, even though I watched this film. There's not a lot.
We're gonna take care of that. We're gonna take care of that.
But I'm not opposed to being exposed to more Blind Melon, and I guess that's big of me. I would say.
You're one of the
you
heroes.
are a brave man.
You and Lisa are both people who have gone through a lot, and they're willing to go through more.
Thank you for that sincere vote of approval. No, this is a good one, Ryan. This is a good film. Your appreciation.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yes, no, I loved it like 10 times more. I don't know why I was so hesitant the first time I watched it. I think it was just different.
You wanted the Gibbard part scene.
I just wanted Gibbard's input, as always.
They couldn't get Henry Rollins to say something about Blind Melon. Come on, Questlove. I stole all my beats from Blind Melon.
Just Questlove coming in like, it wasn't for me. Didn't like him.
That would have been great. One talking head.
One talking head is like, not for me.
Blind Melon, who are they again?
You came all the way down here to tell us you didn't like them.
Oh my God. The bee girl? I
yeah.
loved how much
they hate
Shannon hates the bee girl.
Shannon hates the bee girl. It's crazy.
Yeah.
The only thing Shannon doesn't like in this world.
He really did seem to hate how much they became associated with that song.
I think it's because he knows that out there was a young Dave Lizerbram
who's just going to write them off.
Who wrote them off as crass commercial product. Yeah. Because some buddy of Axl Rose did this Bee video, and next thing you know, they're all over the cover of the Rolling Stone. And I just didn't give him a chance.
Fat asses on the Rolling Stone.
Couldn't go a couple days without carbs, Shan.
Couple more crunches.
Yeah.
This is the band's big shot. Anyway, so yeah, he did not care for the whole B-girl thing, but whatever. It is what it is. And they named the movie after a quote from that song because that's all anybody remembers. Anyway, it's a heartbreaking tale, but yeah, good movie. All right, Ryan, thank you so much. Anything you want to share?
Thank you.
Plug? I don't know. You
have I write Awkward SD. No, I have nothing. Awkward SD, Substack. You can find me there. Okay. You can find me here's my address. Everybody have pencils? You can just come and we can listen to soup together. Yeah. We can eat real soup, post on my Reddit soup, but not the real soup. And then listen to soup. All right.
I love it. All right. Thank you all for listening to Rock Talks.
Hi, I'm the cameraman. I'm the one that's not getting videoed that much because I'm making sure that everybody else has priceless video footage for the future.
Signing it all the way. Signing it already? Yeah. This is it.
Things are getting really kind of crazy. Mr. Jagger and Mr. Watts would like to meet the band if we're not busy. You know, they just so happened to catch us at a time when we really weren't that busy.
If there's not at least 500,000 people here by Sunday, we're going to be surprised.
You know when you have like one of those moments and everything is perfect to the point where you're so overwhelmed that you get all emotional and your eyes tear up and shit.
Maybe you ought to just mind your own fucking business. You tell me that drugs aren't good sometimes. I'm fucking in the house.
Put it away. Right now.
Music is a very therapeutic thing. It's a fix, and it helps get a lot of things out of you. It helps you bleed.
Here, Shannon, make a wish.
As quickly as it might have come, it can be gone that soon.
Lisa!
This is just a time frame we're dealing with. We're not going to be here for forever.